Hello, Muslim friends in the world. The cold air of New York pierced the skin, but the main hall of Columbia University was heated by the enthusiasm of hundreds of students filling the audience seats. Media cameras were ready to record, and professors and academics sat eagerly, awaiting the most anticipated debate of the year. Is Islam the religion of truth? Two great intellectual figures sat facing each other on the stage. On one side, Dr. Michael Edwards, a Christian theologian who had spent decades defending his faith in various global forums. He was known as a sharp thinker, with rhetorical skills that could dismantle his opponent's arguments in just a few exchanges. On the other side, Dr. Ahmad Rashid, a former atheist who had become a Muslim scholar. He was not only a religious scholar, but also a scientist who often proved the truth of Islam through logic and science. A moderator stood in the center, looking at the audience with a professional smile. Welcome to a debate that will test truth through logic and knowledge. Before us stand two great thinkers. Dr. Michael Edwards will begin as the one challenging Islam. Please, Dr. Michael. Dr. Michael stood confidently. He wore a neatly tailored black suit, his hair slightly graying, and his sharp eyes scanned the audience. He took a deep breath before finally beginning his speech. Islam is a religion that is rapidly growing around the world, and I respect Muslims, he said in a calm yet firm voice. However, I am not here for pleasantries. I want to ask, is Islam truly the religion of truth? The room fell silent. All eyes were on him. I have read the Quran and the history of Islam. I found that this religion is full of burdensome rules. Islam dictates what to eat, how to dress, even how to speak and walk. Shouldn't God grant freedom rather than control people like slaves? Some in the audience nodded, while others waited for a response. Moreover, he continued, Islam was born in Arabia, a place filled with ignorance and war. If this were truly God's religion, why did it not emerge in Greece, where philosophy and civilization were more advanced? Dr. Michael gave a faint smile, feeling he had landed the first blow. He then sat down, folding his hands confidently. Now it was Dr. Ahmad Rashid's turn. He did not speak immediately, but instead smiled calmly, as if completely unshaken by his opponent's attack. He stood up slowly, took a water bottle from the table, and poured its contents into a clear glass. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, holding the glass, this water is colorless and odorless. Do we all agree that it is pure water? The audience nodded. But if I drop a single drop of black ink into it, can it still be called pure? People grew curious. What did this have to do with Islam? If we live without rules, Dr. Ahmad continued, we are like pure water that can be tainted at any moment. God gives rules not to burden us, but to keep us pure, guided, and protected. The atmosphere shifted. Many in the audience nodded, understanding his analogy. As for why Islam was born in Arabia, let me ask you this in return, he said, his sharp gaze locking onto Dr. Michael. Does a diamond lose its value just because it is found in dirty soil? The room fell completely silent. On the contrary, it is precisely because it emerged from the darkest place that Islam proves itself to be the light. If Islam could transform a society filled with ignorance into a civilization that illuminated the world, then that is proof of its power. The audience erupted. Some students who had initially been skeptical began whispering to one another. Dr. Michael was momentarily speechless. He had not expected his opponent to turn his argument so elegantly, but he would not give up so easily. He stared sharply at Dr. Ahmad and said, all right, if Islam is logical, prove it to me with science. And that was where the true battle of logic began. Dr. Ahmad Rashid smiled upon hearing the challenge. He knew that many people assumed religion and science were always at odds. However, Islam was not merely a faith without foundation. He looked at Dr. Michael with unwavering confidence. You want scientific proof? Very well, let's start with something simple. Dr. Ahmad picked up a remote and turned on the large screen behind him. A quote in Arabic appeared, followed by its English translation, and the heaven we constructed with strength, and indeed, we are its expander. Quran, Surah Ad-Dariyat, 47. Dr. Michael frowned. What does that mean? Dr. Ahmad took a step forward. This verse states that the universe is expanding. Do you know who first discovered this theory? Edwin Hubble, Dr. Michael answered without hesitation. Correct, Dr. Ahmad said. In 1929, Edwin Hubble discovered that galaxies are moving away from each other, indicating that the universe is expanding. This became the foundation of the Big Bang Theory. But did you know that the Quran mentioned this 1,400 years before telescopes were even invented? The room fell silent. Dr. Michael gave a small smile, trying to remain composed. Perhaps it was just a coincidence. Dr. Ahmad nodded, then changed the display on the screen. This time, images of a human embryo in different stages of development appeared, alongside another Quranic verse. Then we made the sperm drop into a clinging clot, and we made the clot into a lump of flesh, and we made from the lump bones, and we covered the bones with flesh. Quran, Surah Al-Mu'minun, 14. Dr. Ahmad turned to the audience. Before the 20th century, many scientists believed that the human embryo formed all at once, without stages. But as technology advanced, embryology discovered that the human embryo develops in stages, exactly as described in this verse. Some medical students in the front rows looked shocked. One of them whispered, "That's exactly what we learned in embryology class." Dr. Michael bit his lip. He had not expected his opponent to bring such strong science-based arguments. "I can accept that Islam has some aspects that align with science," he said, trying to regain control. "But what about verses that seem illogical, like stars being a protection for the sky?" Dr. Ahmad smiled. He knew that Dr. Michael was referring to the verse about stars as protectors of the sky. "I'm glad you asked that, Doctor," Ahmad said. He returned to the screen, displaying a large NASA image of a meteor burning up as it entered Earth's atmosphere. The Quran mentions that stars are a form of protection. Now we know that Earth's atmosphere protects us from space objects by burning them up before they reach the ground. Without this protective layer, Earth would be bombarded by space debris every day. Several students nodded in amazement. Even some professors appeared to be deep in thought. Dr. Michael fell silent. For the first time in the debate, he didn't know what to say. "Another coincidence?" Dr. Ahmad asked gently, but with a challenging tone. Dr. Michael took a deep breath. He felt himself being cornered, but he wouldn't give up so easily. "All right," he finally said, "but Islam isn't just about science. If this is truly God's religion, why is there still so much crime and war in the Muslim world?" Dr. Ahmad looked at him with a calm smile. "You have just entered a deeper realm, Dr. Michael, and I will answer with something you might never expect." Dr. Michael leaned back in his chair, trying to hide his anxiety. Up to this point, he had faced scientific arguments that were difficult to refute, but he still had one last weapon: the reality of the Muslim world. He picked up the microphone and looked directly at Dr. Ahmad Rashid. "If Islam is the truth, then why is the Muslim world filled with war, corruption, and crime? Why do Muslim countries often lag behind in science and technology? If Islam truly brings enlightenment, why do its followers seem to live in darkness?" Some in the audience applauded. This was a classic argument often used to attack Islam. Many thought Dr. Ahmad would struggle to answer it. However, Dr. Ahmad simply chuckled. He shook his head with a smile. "I knew you would bring up this argument, Dr. Michael, and to be honest, I like it." The room fell silent again. Everyone was waiting to see how he would respond to this sharp question. Dr. Ahmad slowly stepped forward, looking at the audience with confidence. "Let's think logically. If someone owns a Ferrari but drives it recklessly and crashes into a wall, does that mean the Ferrari itself is flawed?" Some students started whispering. They could sense where this was going. Islam is like a perfect supercar, an extraordinary system. But if the driver doesn't know how to use it properly, then the problem isn't with the car, it's with the driver. Dr. Michael narrowed his eyes. "So you're saying that all the fault lies with Muslims?" "That's not what I'm saying," Dr. Ahmad replied quickly. "I'm only saying that we must separate the teachings of Islam from the actions of its followers. Would you judge Christianity solely based on the crimes committed by Christians in the past? For example, the Crusades that massacred thousands, the Spanish Inquisition that tortured Muslims and Jews, Or European colonization that brought slavery and death to various parts of the world? Does that mean the teachings of Jesus were wrong? Dr. Michael fell silent. He knew that if he said no, then he would have to admit that the mistakes of Muslims did not mean Islam itself was wrong. The reality is, Dr. Ahmad continued, many Muslim countries experience war due to political factors, not religion. They were colonized for hundreds of years, divided by colonial powers, and to this day they are still struggling against the remnants of that destruction. Dr. Ahmad then displayed a large screen. This time he showed a list of countries with the lowest crime rates in the world. Look, he said, pointing to the list, some of the safest countries in the world today include Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. The nations with the lowest crime rates are actually Muslim countries that properly implement Islamic law. The room buzzed. Many were surprised by this fact. And let's not forget, he added, during the golden age of Islam, Muslims were the pioneers of science and technology. Algebra, optics, medicine, astronomy, all flourished under Islamic civilization. Without Muslim scientists, the European Renaissance might never have happened. Dr. Michael wiped his forehead. He was starting to feel cornered. All right, he finally said. I admit that maybe I was too quick to judge Islam based on its followers. But there's still one thing that truly bothers me. Dr. Ahmad looked at him calmly. And what is that? Dr. Michael took a deep breath. If Islam is the religion of truth, why is it so difficult for me to accept it? Why does my heart still doubt? The room suddenly fell silent. Dr. Ahmad gazed at him for a long moment, then smiled gently. Because you haven't asked your heart to be honest, Doctor. Michael. The atmosphere in the Columbia University Hall became so silent that even the sound of breathing could be heard. All eyes were fixed on Dr. Michael Edwards, who now looked far more uneasy than before. He was a master debater, a theologian who had won dozens of discussions, but this time, his own heart was beginning to question his beliefs. Because you haven't asked your heart to be honest, Doctor. Michael? Dr. Ahmad Rashid's words still hung in the air. Dr. Michael stared at his opponent with sharp eyes, as if trying to pierce the depths of his mind. I have always been honest in my search for the truth. Dr. Ahmad nodded slowly. Really? He asked in a gentle voice. If that's true, then let me ask you, what is it that you're truly afraid of? Dr. Michael flinched. He hadn't expected a question like that. Afraid? He let out a small laugh, trying to mask his unease. What do you mean? I'm not afraid of anything. Dr. Ahmad looked at him with understanding. All right, then let's speak as two human beings searching for the truth, not as two people in a debate. I want you to answer my question honestly, Doctor. Michael, if deep in your heart you are starting to believe that Islam is the truth, what is stopping you from accepting it? Dr. Michael fell silent. His heartbeat quickened. He shifted his gaze to the audience, seeing hundreds of eyes waiting for his response. Then, in a voice softer than before, he finally said, If I accept Islam, I will lose everything. Murmurs spread throughout the room. Some looked surprised by his answer, while others nodded, understanding his fear. Dr. Ahmad remained silent, giving Dr. Michael the space to continue. I am a priest, a professor of Christian theology. My entire life has been dedicated to defending the religion I've believed in since childhood. If I accept Islam, how will I explain this to my family? To my students? To the world? His voice trembled. I could lose my job. I could lose my friends. I could lose everything I have built all these years. So it's not that I don't see the truth in Islam. He paused, staring at the floor for a moment, before finally whispering, I'm just afraid. A student in the front row seemed to hold their breath. Several others looked at Dr. Michael with eyes full of empathy. Dr. Ahmad smiled gently. He stepped forward, approaching Dr. Michael, then spoke with a voice full of calm. You know, Doctor, Michael, in the history of Islam, you are not the first person to feel this way. Dr. Michael lifted his face, looking at Dr. Ahmad with curiosity. Umar ibn Khattab, one of the most honored companions of the Prophet Muhammad, was once Islam's fiercest enemy. He was afraid of losing his status, afraid of losing his position in society, afraid of the consequences of accepting the truth. But in the end, he chose to follow his heart. And look at him now. He is remembered as one of the most just leaders in human history. Dr. Ahmad paused for a moment, then continued in a softer tone. Truth is not about what others think of us. Truth is about our courage to acknowledge it, even when it's difficult. Dr. Michael swallowed hard. Those words seemed to pierce directly into his heart. He took a deep breath, then asked in a low voice, "Then, what if I truly accept it? What will happen to me?" Dr. Ahmad smiled. "What will happen, doctor?" "Michael, is that you will find the peace you have been searching for all this time?" The room remained silent. Everyone waited with bated breath. Dr. Michael clenched the microphone tightly in his hands. He knew this was no longer just a debate. This was the biggest decision of his life. Dr. Michael stared at the blank screen in front of him. He could hear the sound of his own heartbeat pounding rapidly, as if confirming that he was standing at a crossroads in his life. "What will happen, doctor?" "Michael, is that you will find the peace you have been searching for all this time." Dr. Ahmad Rashid's words still echoed in his mind. He shifted his gaze toward the audience. Hundreds of eyes were fixed on him with anticipation, some filled with curiosity, others with hopeful anxiety. He then closed his eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath, trying to calm his thoughts. "I want to say something," he finally said. The entire room fell silent. "I have spent years of my life studying theology. I have read thousands of books, researched various beliefs, and debated with many scholars. But for the first time in my life, I feel I am not winning this debate." Dr. Ahmad smiled gently. "Because this is not about winning or losing, doctor. Michael, this is about finding the truth." Dr. Michael let out a small laugh, though his face still showed traces of confusion. "I always believed that I had already found the truth long ago. But tonight, I feel like a man standing before a vast ocean, only now realizing that all this time, I had merely been swimming in a small pond." He lowered his gaze, gripping the microphone tightly. "I want to ask you something, Dr. Ahmad." "Go ahead, doctor," Ahmad replied calmly. Dr. Michael looked at him intently. "What did it feel like when you first discovered Islam? What does it feel like to truly know that this is the right path?" Dr. Ahmad paused for a moment. He took a slow breath, then answered with a voice full of sincerity, "It feels like coming home after being lost for so long." Dr. Michael was stunned. He didn't know why, but something in his heart trembled upon hearing those words. He wiped his face, then shook his head with a smile. "I never imagined that one day I would reach this point." "What point?" Dr. Ahmad asked. "The point where I am no longer debating with my own logic." The room fell silent again. Everyone held their breath, waiting for what would happen next. Dr. Michael took a deep breath. "Dr. Ahmad, if someone wants to accept Islam, what must they do?" The room erupted. Some people exchanged glances, unable to believe what they had just heard. Dr. Ahmad smiled warmly. He stepped closer to Dr. Michael and said gently, "All you need to do is testify with an honest heart. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger." Dr. Michael remained silent. His heartbeat quickened. He knew that if he uttered those words, his life would never be the same again. But for the first time, he wasn't afraid. He felt at peace. He looked at Dr. Ahmad and, with a firm voice, said, "Teach me how to say it." The room, once filled with debate, had now transformed into a sea of silence. All eyes were fixed on Dr. Michael Edwards, who stood on the stage with a face full of determination. "Teach me how to say it." His words echoed through the hall, shaking the hearts of everyone who heard them. Some students held their breath, while others whispered softly, unable to believe that a renowned Christian theologian was now on the brink of a life-changing decision. Dr. Ahmad Rashid smiled and stepped forward gently. "If you are truly certain, then say it with a sincere heart." He gazed at Dr. Michael with tranquility, then began to recite the words that would change the man's life forever. "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah." Dr. Michael took a deep breath, his heart trembling. He knew this was the point of no return. If he said these words, everything would change. His life, his career, and perhaps even the people around him. But for the first time in his life, he had no doubts. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, he said with a steady voice. Some people in the front row began to weep with emotion. Dr. Ahmad continued, Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Dr. Michael stared straight ahead, feeling a peace he had never known before. With a voice that trembled yet was full of conviction, he spoke the final words, Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. It was done. Silence. And then, within seconds, the entire hall erupted with the sound of takbir resounding in the air. Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Some Muslim students clapped while crying tears of joy. A female professor covered her face with her hands, sobbing emotionally. Even those who had been skeptical now seemed deeply moved by the incredible scene they had just witnessed. Dr. Michael lowered his head. He felt as if he had just been reborn. There was a lightness in his heart, something he had never felt in decades of studying religion. Dr. Ahmad gently patted his shoulder. Welcome to Islam, my brother. Dr. Michael smiled, tears welling in his eyes. He had never imagined that his long journey in search of truth would finally lead him here, to Islam, and yet at the same time, he knew his journey had only just begun.